As sports history fans, we often reminisce about the legends. Willis Reed limping onto the NBA Finals court, Kurt Schilling's bloody sock, Kerry Strug's courageous dismount, and so many more. These moments often define sports history. But what about the countless injuries that did not become legends, or careers that were derailed due to inadequate care? That's where this episode's sponsor comes in. Introducing to you, ILP Sports Consultants, your trusted sports injury partner, available 24/7. Brian Maelli at ILP Sports Consultants has over 20 years of experience in the orthopedic and sports medicine industry, and he has worked with athletes across the gamut, from youth to amateurs, professionals, in almost every sport played in the United States of America, accommodating athletes at every stage of their career. This adaptability ensures that ILP services are perfectly tailored to your skill level, no matter where you are in your athletic journey. With ILP, you are in control. Choose the steps that matter most to you. Diagnosis, treatment plan, recovery, or the whole journey. ILP services are tailored to your unique needs. Rushing for care is a common pitfall, leading to future problems. ILP Sports Consultants helps you make the right decisions, ensuring that you receive timely and safe care. And here's a bonus. Brian hosts the Injured List podcast, sharing insights and athlete stories you won't want to miss. Whether you're a concerned parent or grandparent, or an athlete yourself seeking guidance, ILP Sports Consultants is your beacon of hope in sports injury management. Visit ilpsports.com today. That's the letters ilpsports.com. ILP Sports Consultants, where your well-being is the priority and your recovery is the mission. Choose ILP Sports Consultants for a healthier sports journey, helping you get back in the game the smart way.
Blog Talk Radio.
Tonight we'll go back in time to seasons past, when 22 men graced the rugged fields of yesterday, fighting for one more first down, one more yard gain, one final score, which would bring victory after 60 minutes of battle on the gridiron. Tonight we'll explore the world of Gridiron Greats. Welcome to Gridiron Greats Football History and Memorabilia on the Gridiron Greats Publishing and Broadcasting Network, in conjunction with Swick Enterprises. And we're live from the Wallingford, Connecticut home of Gridiron Greats Magazine. I'm Bob Swick, publisher and editor of Gridiron Greats Magazine, and I'll be your host for the show. Gridiron Greats is the only publication in America which focuses upon the history and memorabilia of the North American football game since its inception in 1869. We cover 150-plus years of football history and memorabilia. You can find us on the web at gridirongreatsmagazine.com. It is at this time I'd like to introduce my co-host, the senior contributing writer to Gridiron Greats Magazine, a football memorabilia historian, specializing in pre-World War II items, in particular Red Grange, and also Seattle Seahawk items, in particular Steve Largent. He hails from Portland, Oregon, Mr. Joe Squires. Joe, welcome to the show this evening.
Rare form today, Captain. Your football was, I gave it an attaboy. Outstanding. Nice job.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. And before we get started, I got another piece of news I want to pass, although not overly pleasant, but I do need to talk about it real quick. Another longtime subscriber, original subscriber of Gridiron Greats magazine, David Lawrence, passed away relatively young also. He was only 70. I haven't talked to Dave in several years. He also bought and sold sports memorabilia on the side. And sadly, he passed away. I just found out about it this past week. So I'd like to express my condolences to the Lawrence family. He was a great guy. I enjoyed talking to him. I met him a couple times at the National. And Javi's, again, lost another great person. All right, moving on. Joe, I'm going to hand off to you. Let's look at some auctions that recently has closed. Go for it.
I'm so excited, Captain. It's auction season. I think last show we were talking, I was like, I love auction seasons. Whenever people are like, there's too many auctions going off, I can't track it. I'm the opposite. I love auction season. We got 4 big ones firing off here in the next week. REA, Robert Edward Auctions. Obviously, Brian Dwyer's been on the show before. Ends this Sunday, December 6th. A massive amount of, obviously, REA puts their best foot forward. Love of the Game, subscriber Gridiron Greats. Al Crisafulli's auction ended last week. Great auction. I had some consignments in there. Thank you, Al. Always exceeding my expectations in consignments. Mile High fires off next Thursday, a week from today, December 10th. Heritage has 3 auctions that are ending December 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. Then Leland's on December 11th. So, I mean, in a 5, if you include Heritage, in a 5-day span, 4 major auction houses firing off. REA, exactly. Mile High, Heritage, and
there's some amazing stuff in all of them. Incredible stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Incredible. Yeah, and we were talking before the show. It's just it is unopened back because in REA is just a massive amount of unopened going all the way back to they have in the 70s. Let me grab my my bid list and my watch list here, but I mean they've got some 78. They have 3 unopened wax boxes of 78 cello, 81 a factory sealed case of 81 rack packs. A factory sealed case of 82 rack packs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 1984 tops, the set that's dear to my heart, unopened wax boxes, 86 2001 or 2000 Upper Deck SP, which has the Tom Brady rookie card in it, a wax pack box of that. Just incredible. And also, it's worth mentioning, since I've written an article in Gridiron about this, a bunch of high-end grade 48 leaf cards. But as I clicked on them, I'm just looking at how trimmed some of these are. It reminds me of just how sad this set has become. Just so many trimmed cards. But incredible. What a great option.
We've talked about the trimming on the 48 being slabbed for numerous times over the years, and it's just still so prevalent, and it's a shame. It really is, because you're not getting the real card. And again, I've always said I prefer my 48 and 49 leaf sets because they're basically from poor condition to at the most X, nothing graded. And I tell a lot of people, when I was putting that set together back in the 80s, I never saw near mint cards from 48 and 49 leaf. So how all of a sudden, in a 30-year period, did all these near mint cards come out of hiding? It's impossible. It truly is impossible.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know. It's not a good
sad.
Situation looking at.
It's sad. And literally, I'm looking at a PSA 7 Sid Luckman, that half the right border is missing, a PSA 9 Bulldog Turner, and this Bulldog Turner has made it around the hobby quite a few times, and it's just it's the right borders miss. It stuns me. 10 years ago, my wife used to call it catch and release. because I was, I'd buy all these raw cards and then I'd measure them with these, digital calipers. I'd track them. So, I knew the dimensions of cards. Then I'd get graded ones and I'd measure them in the case. So I just had a spreadsheet of what measurements worked and what measurements didn't, and you just begin to get a feel for the set. And it's tough to learn all of these high-end trim cards. Like I said, the Bulldog Turner PSA 9, it's just makes me shake my head.
And again, it was a situation, in my opinion, to say the least, that, no matter what you do to try to educate people, they're still mesmerized with the condition of the card. They're mesmerized by the slab, and they're buying it, and that's it. And there's no questions asked. That's it.
Yep. What's the old saying? The registry is a hell of a drug. But just some amazing auction firearms. REA, like I said, a bunch of unopened, some great sets. We move on to Heritage. Just a tremendous amount of unopened. 76 Topps football wax packs box with unopened in it. 1976. That's really cool. And then another 2000 Upper Deck, one. It's just some great unopened mid 80s, 78, 79, 80. Mile High has some 86 and 78. It's just really cool to see. A couple Tom Brady rookie cards. It's kind of interesting, just Tom Brady stuff that's hitting the market. Obviously, he's getting near the end of his career. Leland's has some unopened. They've got some good stuff.
It's interesting to me how back in the 80s, after the season was over, you couldn't give the wax boxes away. You know what I mean? And now all of a sudden, the value of them is just, if I had the crystal ball, I would be at the compound in Palm Beach right now rather than the compound in Wallingford. That's all I can say. It's just amazing to me to see where all these prices went. I can remember going to shows in the early 80s. Dealers were willing to sell you a return box of Topps, whatever, for a nickel a pack, $1.80 a wax box. I still remember those days. And I always used to say, why don't you just break it open and get cards for inventory? And they say, well, I got 10,000 cards already. I don't need any more type of thing. It just amazes me. Truly amazes me. So evolution of the hobby, and I'm 40 years older than them, so it's much different today. So.
Yeah, I got a couple articles I'm working on for Gridiron. One of them is a comparison of unopened wax, like 84 or 81 wax. So I'll take like 4 or 5 and then compare it to the S&P or the Dow Jones. See how people would have done if they would have invested in football cards. But obviously there's winners and losers. If you would have sank your entire fortune into 89 Topps, thinking that was the big one, then you'd be poor right now. But
yeah. Well, again, 89 really the only wax box that still maintains value is the Score. Pro set you can I'm sure find for $5 a box somewhere. You can still find 89 Topps that are shown for $5 a box. There's really no value. And 90, forget. Even though Belichick is in the 91 per set, not 90. 90 per set, there's nothing. 90 Topps, there's nothing. 90 Score is even worse than the other two put together. So then you jump the 10 years to that Upper Deck Brady rookie wax box, and that's about all that's there, in my opinion.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yep. Yeah. We were talking before the show about something else. I was going through a lot of my old Gridiron Greats, and one thing that's always confused me, I was joking around with you, is it goes by volume and issue. It's like volume 7 or volume 6, issue 20. We have no idea. I mean, what number? So you see a lot of people advertising in the back of Gridiron Greats, like, hey, I'm looking for issues 1, 2, 3. But the problem is the issues don't really match what numerically, what number it is. Because of the volume thing. So I was like, well, how do I correlate that? So I started tracking them, which is when you which is why I was able to find that article about you and what is it, Dan Goyich?
Dan Goyich. Yep.
The Band-Aid card.
The traditional way of numbering was the volume is the year, and then because it's a quarterly publications, 4 issues in the year, and then you would do volume 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, then volume 2, number 5, so on and so forth. So I know we're on issue 70, and off the top of my head, I don't remember what volume. Well, probably 17, and it's going to be 18. I pulled it out. Volume 19, number 70, and then we'll be going into volume 20. So.
And when did you take Gridiron over? It was in 2008, right?
Issue 23, which was the winter issue of 2008, 2009.
2008.
So Frank Rose did issues 1 to 22. Issues 1, 2, 3, and 4 are beyond rare. And then there's some freeing up of issues 5 through 22. And then 23 up, with the exception. I'm actually getting low on some of the issues right now. The AFL, the World Football League issue, the issues with you guys did, or John Spano did the Mayos. Those issues are
John
getting,
and I wrote that. Yeah.
Yeah. They're getting very, very low. So as I tell anybody, if you want to fill in your back issues, now's the time to do it. But so we've been publishing for 11 years now. It's been a long time. So
wow. Yeah.
In fact, we're getting working on the December issue, which will come out January 10th, the winter issue. And I made a decision several years ago to mail it out after Christmas and New Year's, because it's just crazy in the post office trying to get anything out, get anything on time. So it's just easier doing it that way. But so we're working on that now, and that's it. But get back to the auctions again. It's pretty fascinating to see what's out there and how hot unopened wax continues to be. And there's in my opinion, there's no way in the future it's going to cool down at all. No way. It's impossible.
I mean, because if you're of a collecting age, the most nostalgic thing you can think of is going to the store, plopping down your nickel or your quarter, and buying a wax pack and opening it. I mean, so if we want to talk about what takes us back in time, it's the wax pack. So I mean, so you see a lot of collectors are doing it. But we've had Steve Hart, the owner of BBC, on here, and he was talking about just the process it takes to authenticate boxes, and Steve's just one man, and he's the guy who does it all. So
right,
yeah.
And it's I found it interesting a while back. I know I had mentioned it. I went to a local show that was outside here in Orange. I picked up a handful of things, and one of the things I picked up, because I felt sorry for the dealer, he had a bunch of unopened junk wax there, which he ended up selling for $5 a box to me. So I bought a 91 Bowman, I think it's second series 90 Pro set, and a 92 Skybox box for $15, $5 for each box. And I said to myself, I'm just going to let it sit there, and if the National ever comes closer, I'll just bring it with me, and we'll use it as our junk opening. But how many hundreds of thousands of those boxes are out there for the junk wax box era, and
oh, man.
It's crazy, and to pay 15 cents a pack, to put it in perspective, less than 15 cents a pack for the cards is just crazy, truly crazy.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
No, and
unbelievable.
I mean, it's like land. There's not much more being made. I mean, you're not making it anymore. Except in an RV, in Pennsylvania, where they're resealing stuff. But I mean, hopefully the experts are catching that. I have faith in Steve Hart. So hopefully
the one thing I'm finding amazing too is the real big run up in unopened wax boxes for Fleer Team in Action, which again, you couldn't give that stuff away the next season if you had it at a show. So the 77 through 88 Fleer Teams in Action wax boxes are red hot, and it's just it's nice to see because that to me was always an overlooked set of the 70s and 80s, which was a lot of fun to collect. And they were nice small sets. Had a fun insert with the sticker helmet or logo stickers, and it's pretty cool. Pretty cool, to say the least. Well, our guest is here, and I'd like to move on to that, and I'd like to introduce him at this time. I'd like to introduce our special guest, who's a Buffalo Bills fan since 1963, and he's been a collector of Buffalo Bills memorabilia since 1966. He's married with 2 grown-up daughters. He hails from Texas. Mr. Joe Burton. Joe, welcome to the show this evening.
Hello, Bob, Joe. Great to be here.
Hello, sir.
Hey, I just want to touch on one thing that Bob said about the 48, 49 Leaf. Never seeing mint ones at a show. When I was going to the shows in the 70s, T206s, now it's baseball, but you didn't see any in more than 4 or 5 condition then. And then all of a sudden we have all these 8s and 9s that are kind of small. So it's about the same thing as you were saying. We didn't see them in the 70s, and all of a sudden there was a glut of near perfect cards.
I've heard many people say about the same thing, Joe. You didn't see perfect. These PSA 8 cards were created, not made.
Right.
So.
Yeah, they're a scarcity, a man-made scarcity. Let's put it that way.
Well, I always say there was somebody who hoarded the Leaf warehouse when they shut down, kept all the cards. And then as the years went on, he put them into the market in various conditions. I'm being sarcastic when I say that, but,
Yeah, exactly.
Come on. You're not going to find them. They're not there. They're just not there. If you saw my 48 Leaf high numbers in football, you would die. I mean, you would just die to see the condition. They're in horrible condition. If I have any of the high numbers in GVG, that's amazing. Most of mine are 40.
Yeah, but Bob, you know there's a whole card there, though, don't you?
Say that again. Oh yeah,
yeah. You know it's a whole card there in your condition. All of it's still there.
Yeah. So to me, it's just amazing to see where do these cards come from. And when I see a Leaf high number in 7 or better, I just say forget it. That's bogus.
Yeah.
That's bogus. I don't care what anybody says. But anyways, Joe, I'm going to lead off. I'm going to ask you. I'm going to hand off to you. Tell us and tell our audience how you became a fan of the Buffalo Bills.
Well, my father was an avid football fan, and he was ecstatic when the Bills came to Buffalo in 1960. He bought season tickets in 1959 for $12.50. That included 3 preseason games and 6 home games in old War Memorial Stadium, the Rock Pile. So he started in 1960, and I started going with him in 1963 at the age of 7.
Wow.
We would go eat breakfast, walk to the stadium. If it snowed, we shoveled off our own seats, and we watched the game. Yep, that's in those days. That's what you did. He bought.
I love it.
He bought end zone seats because he said he liked to see the holes open up in the line, but I just think he was too cheap to get 50-yard line. So that's where we sat until the stadium closed down and they moved over to Rich Stadium.
Well, I'm not ashamed to say.
Started with the Bills.
I'm not ashamed to say I've sat in the end zone numerous times because those were the only tickets I could afford. And believe me, they were up there. So I got a good sky view of things. So I hear where you're coming from on that.
That's funny, Joe. We used to have, my family had season tickets to the Seahawks, and we were like 30-yard line, 3rd row. And I was always impressed that we were in 3rd row. How close to the action we were. But the problem was when the game happened and the players on the bench, stood up, you couldn't see anything, which was half the time there was somebody standing up. And I just began to realize, I'm like, if you talk to people later, I'm like, yeah, third row kind of sucked. You kind of wanted to be up about 10 rows, kind of funny. But, Joe, I got to know.
We were up about halfway, so we could see the whole game. We were in the open end of the baseball. It was where the box seats were for the baseball, down by the dugouts. And this is long before nets for extra points, so they'd all the guys would clamor underneath there. I always wanted to go down there, and he said, my father said, are you crazy? Those metal poles in between, people bashing themselves for $1 football doesn't make any sense. So, but yeah, those are some great memories in that stadium. I didn't know any better. I thought football was like that all the time. So,
Joe, I think I've told you this before, but I first got introduced to you in about 2004, 2005, and it was you reached out to me. I was new to the hobby. I was active on the CU, the PSA chat boards, but collecting the Hall of Fame rookie card set. But a Mastro auction ended, and I mentioned that I bought a PSA 9 O.J. Simpson rookie card, and you PM'd me, and then we had about a 45, 50-minute phone call where you told me that shilling was happening. But I have a really fond memory of you're reaching out to a hobby newbie like me to just hey, how was your price on that? Do you think just introduce me to the underbelly of it, just to open my eyes a little bit. I always appreciated that.
Oh yeah, I thought it was just a rumor at that time that Mastro and all those, not more than a rumor, the rumblings were happening that some of the prices that they weren't able to see the bidders, and I just wanted to just reach out to you. You told me at the time, I remember you said you thought you played well under your max bid, so that was a good thing at the time. Yeah. I'm sure that OJ card has gone about 5-6 times what you paid for it in 2005.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, it has. I'm a big fan of that 70s set. Is pretty good. But you've mentioned a few times, Jack Kemp, one of your favorite players. But you've had a couple of experiences with him. Would you, curious if you'd like to share that?
Yeah, obviously Jack Kemp was a $100 waiver wire pickup by the Bills from San Diego and brought Buffalo the only 2 championships they ever had. So it was a pretty good $100 that the Bills spent. My father was a charter member of the Buffalo Bills Booster Club from '59. So they would have their booster meetings, and they'd bring in, guest players, whoever it was at the time. And the first time I ever got a look at Jack Kemp, and now I'm 7, 8, 9 years old, he reminded me of John F. Kennedy. He was tall, perfect hair, elegant speaker. I mean, this guy, obviously, the Buffalo Bills quarterback. So years later, my mother was the vice president of the telephone union, and they would have fundraisers, luncheons for the politics for him. And I got to meet him many times in those meetings and talk to him have conversations with him about the Bills days. And actually, his son Jeff was just starting to play, which was another NFL quarterback for a while. And Jack was a family friend for many years. Every year he'd remember us and send Christmas cards to the family. So, yeah, I found memories of meeting him. Obviously went on to be congressman and then vice presidential candidate, and passed away way too young. So, yeah, he was one of my childhood idols in football, definitely.
Kemp to me was always class act all the way. What a great guy, great player, great for our society. Gave back in so many different ways. Amazing, and that it's so cool that you had that opportunity to to actually talk to him. To me, it's just great, truly great.
Yeah, many times he sat down. Of course, he'd go around to everybody, but once he got to know that I was an avid football fan, we had brief conversations about it, and I always kidded him that he's the only quarterback that I knew that threw more interceptions than touchdowns, and everybody still liked him. So
it's great, great guy. Classic. I could still picture a 65 tall boy card too, with the buffalo spread on top with the capital letters. That what's a good way? It's like a purple background. So cool, so neat to say the least. And that leads me to asking you: you grew up during the American Football League time frame, while the Bills won 2 American Football League championships during that time frame. And again, a lot of people don't remember the AFL, and they don't remember that time frame where the Bills were really a very, very good team, and they were very, very competitive. They won. Do you have any memories from that era? Any stories, memories that occurred during that time frame?
Oh yeah, I mean, all of them actually. We had season tickets throughout the 60s, and of course we went on excursions to New York City every other year, and Cleveland or Pittsburgh if they played those. I remember the win over San Diego, the Mike Stratton hit on Keith Lincoln. The loss to Kansas City was a tough one. The loss to Kansas City in '65 for the chance to go to the first Super Bowl. Of course, the quarterback controversy always LaMonica or Kemp's. When Kemp had a bad game, the fans would chant, "We want LaMonica," before he was traded to the Raiders. I can remember the defenses that we had. My father always said that if they had the Super Bowl in '63 or '64, he thought that Buffalo would have beat Green Bay with the defense we had. Shutting out San Diego and beating them with just 7 points the next year. I can remember every starting player off the '64 defense, but I can't remember what I walked into a room for today, though. But yeah, we had many good experiences in those years, and of course, later in the '60s there were some down years when we won one game, which was against the Super Bowl champion Jets, and had the right to draft O.J. Simpson that year. So
wow.
The only game we picked off name it 5 times to beat the Jets for our only win that year.
Yeah, that was amazing. And that was the highlight of the basically the Jets winning seasons, because it's been 50 years that they've been in doldrums, to say the least. You know what I mean? So it's truly amazing if you think about it and go back. And again, we're pretty knowledgeable about the American Football League. Again, I grew up with it. Joe's learned a lot about it. We all have the mutual friend of Todd Tobias, who is Mr. AFL. And I do maintain the AFL held its own against the NFL during that time frame. There were very good players. There were very good teams.
Absolutely.
And, if the Super Bowl was starting in 1960, I'm sure it would have been 10 years of probably parity between the two leagues. So it's amazing. It's really amazing to think about it. And it's so cool you lived it.
The innovation that happened in the AFL didn't happen until the NFL saw Kansas City and the motion, and I mean the Minnesota was just stumped with all the motion that Kansas City was doing, and of course that was innovated back into the NFL after that. And name it beating the Colts. made the league legitimate. So people say that maybe Joe doesn't belong to the Hall of Fame because of his stats, but he changed the league, and he deserves all the accolades that he gets.
Couldn't agree more.
And I got to watch it a couple times a year, so that was even more fun.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, you mentioned a couple, Bills teams, winning championships and stuff, and I kind of wanted to, bring something out. A couple shows ago, I was telling Bob that I was in a store once, and I saw a guy wearing a, Seattle Seahawks 2005 NFC champions, jacket, and I was like, oh man, don't wear a jacket bragging about being number 2. And it brings up a point. Is it are you good with making it to the show? If you make it to the Super Bowl and lose, you still made it to the Super Bowl. The Bills are the only team to make it to the Super Bowl 4 times in a row. Super Bowl 25, 26, 27, 28 in 1990, 91, 92, 93. Losing to the Giants in 1990, 20-19 with the the famous Bills saying, wide right, which reminds me of, Ray Finkel, from Pet Detective, Scott Norwood's last second field goal. 1991 losing to the Redskins 37-24, 92 the Cowboys 52-17, and that one wasn't quite as close. And in 93 the Cowboys 30-13. Are you, when you look back at going to the dance 4 times in a row, that's got to be very prideful, even though you lost them. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, back in the 90s, I was here in Texas, so those 2 Super Bowl losses to Dallas, we won't talk about those right at the moment. There was no NFL package, so you're streaming the scores live underneath. There was no Thursday night game and Sunday night. You had one chance, if you weren't on prime time on, at 1 or 4 or Monday, you didn't see the game. So that made it tough. And then, of course, living through 4 Super Bowl losses. By the 5th year, everybody was tired of seeing the Bills, and they were just hoping they wouldn't go back again. At the time, it's tough, but, when you look back on it, I mean, what great teams that they had. Hall of Famers, exciting, innovative offense. I went to Super Bowl 25 in Tampa. I was witness to wide right, so that one was a little bit – that was my only Super Bowl appearance, and that's a long ride home after one of those. But, it toughens you up. We had a game against Arizona a couple weeks ago, the Hail Murray. And after that game, after they completed that pass, I turned the TV off, and Maria said, "Aren't you? I lived through 4 Super Bowls. Nothing in sports could bother me now." So she didn't have to hide any of the sharp instruments in the house. It's like it's just so. Living here with the 2 Dallas losses was tough because, of course, leading up to it, you're bragging that it's your team and we're going to win one this time, and then to have both games not very close. But over the years, thinking about them, it was a great run. It really was. That was a great football team, and if they would have maybe kicked that wide right, maybe would have went through, they might have won another one. So,
do you think in the 1990 Super Bowl, the Scott Norwood, do you think New Kids on the Block being the halftime entertainment had a factor?
Yeah. Definitely. You had to bring that up. Of all the 4 Super Bowls, you had to bring up New Kids on the Block, because that's what I tell everybody. The halftime show I saw? I'm not saying. I'm not telling you.
Yeah. Who is your favorite New Kid on the Block, Joe? Is it Danny, or is it, who is your favorite New Kid on the Block?
Joe Squires, for sure.
That's a trick question. There is no favorite. Okay. Anyways, back to our regular scheduled program. I just, that was just a tangent. When I think of the Bills, I think of that. and it which sucks because what a great team. Thurman Thomas, Kelly. It's tough.
Andre Reed
later. Andre Reed a little later. Yep.
Bruce Smith. Yeah.
Bruce Smith. Yep. A lot of Hall of Famers on there. So obviously you're an avid collector. We see you on some chat rooms we belong to that we're all on. Vintage football collector, VFC. And what are the things that are near and dear to you? What are your top 5 things in your collection?
That's all of them that I collect are dear to me. But I went back to my old childhood collecting habits. I dabbled with the registry and found out the registry is a powerful drug, and I went back to just raw sets from 1960 to 1970, Fleer tops, Philly. I can still page through those and recognize most of the names in there. A master set of the Jack Kemp, obviously. I mean, what kind of Jack Kemp fan would I have? Didn't have almost every Jack Kemp card. Namath collection from 66 to 72 with the glaring omission of his 65 rookie. And, of course, all the Bills memorabilia that I, kept or have gotten over the years. But just a love of the AFL and the 60 through 70 era that I grew up in. Everybody, they go to high school and they go off to college or get married, and they kind of leave all that stuff behind, and then later on we'd all pick it back up again. So there was some gap in years there. So I don't think I get back into it till some shows, maybe 88, 89 when that boom came. But, of course, now a pretty healthy collection of Josh Allen cards. That's dear to me right now. I guess whatever you're collecting now is always in the forefront.
Yeah. Kind of is.
The 60 to 69 era to me is always the one. To me, it's my most favorite because I grew up in that time frame. And as everybody knows, my first packs I opened were 65 Philly and 65 tops. And the impression those 65 tops make on you for your entire life, I never grow tired of that set. I just love that set. I love the size of those cards. I love, the crispness of them, seeing the player. And, at that time, you read the back of the cards, you studied them, you memorized everything. And just some great memories of that time frame. So I definitely concur with you that time frame.
The color of the 65 is unmatched. It's unmatched in any set, especially with that size. That color just pops.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
it's just
the
amazing.
1960 Fleer card is the Kemp rookie, isn't it?
Yes, 1960 Fleer.
Yeah.
I didn't start opening packs until 66. The year after, it was the TV tube year with the brown borders.
Yep.
My favorite set of all time, obviously, because of that. But 63 became a very favorite for me, going back and collecting that set. It was a small set, 66 cards, I think, with checklist. Pretty easy to put together. That was a fun project, very fun project.
Yeah, the beautiful time frame for cards.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, I know you lived in Texas, have lived in Texas for a while, and especially during the Bills' glory years. Do you got any stories you can share with us about that time frame, especially from a Texas point of view, as far as the Bills and either their love-hate relationship down there?
It was awful hard to find Bills apparel down here. I don't know if the Texas. It's such a big Dallas cowboy especially in the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 99% Cowboy. Of course, whether they were true fans or bandwagon jumpers, everything around here had nothing but Dallas on it. So, no, it was a lonely time in Texas to be a Bills fan. But I didn't mind it a bit because I would never waver off the Bills. People ask, how do you continue?
Yeah.
Once you've got your team and you're a loyal fan, you are never jumping off to somewhere else. It just wouldn't feel right.
Good on you. Good on you. Yep, I agree. About the only time you sway from your team is if they move cities, if they sway from you.
Right, and there was talk that John Bon Jovi was going to buy the Bills before the owners now, and he was going to move it to Toronto, and Buffalo was just not having any of it. It is a very loyal football. We didn't have Major League Baseball at the time, and we didn't have a major hockey team. I mean, we had a minor league hockey team, a minor league baseball. So when we got the Bills, that was Buffalo and still is today. It still is.
I
remember the push to build the stadium back then, too. I mean, they were talking dome and everything. Still have things that say no more Stowe, football in the dome, and naming the stadium was going to be a thing. We wanted it to be Bob Kelso Stadium for the only American Football League player that died in the Vietnam War, and of course that was the first start of selling the rights to major corporations. Rich Stadium. Rich was an ice cream and milk manufacturer in Buffalo, so. And now I guess there's talking again about, trying to build another stadium. It's only been 50 years. It feels like yesterday.
Yeah. I was stationed in Orlando, Florida, when I was in the Navy. I'm pretty sure I was the only Seattle Seahawks fan in Orlando, in the early 90s, pretty much opposite end of the country from Seattle as Florida. So it was always funny to walk around in Seahawk gear. Primed, there's a question here. Goalpost Restaurant. So I always like to do my homework before a show. I can
fill you in on the Goalpost. The Goalpost
hang
Restaurant.
On. So I tried looking this up. I'm like because I like to do my homework on stuff. Obviously, I rattled off 4 Super Bowls. I didn't know New Kids on the Block played at halftime in 1990. I'm not sure if you remembered it. But, obviously I looked that up. I'm not that good, but so I tried looking Goalpost Restaurant up in Buffalo, even in Dallas where you live now. I couldn't find anything, so I wrote WTF next to Goalpost Restaurant after a couple notes. So I'm just gonna prime the pump here. What's up with Goalpost Restaurant there, Joe?
Goalpost Restaurant was owned by Glenn Bass. He was a wide receiver for the Bills in the 60s. It was in Buffalo, and our family would eat there from time to time, and a lot of the players would come in to frequent it to pay, to help the restaurant get along. I do have a menu from them. I'll get to that in a minute. So, of course, being young, we'd go over there and say hi to the players and get autographs from them, and that's where I got my Goalpost Restaurant signed by Jack Kemp. So I have proof that there was a Goalpost Restaurant in the signed menu from Jack Kemp. We were standing in line, to get seated, and behind us was Ernie Warlick. Now, Ernie Warlick was a tight end for the Bills, and 6'4", 6'5", and I got to shake hands with Ernie Warlick. And his hands were as big as, imagine a 9-year-old being slipped into a catcher's mitt. That was me shaking hands with Ernie Warlick.
That's pretty cool.
But I will post a picture of the Goalpost Restaurant menu for you to show you that there really was one. And it actually has a play. It has Glenn Bass catching a pass on the front of the menu, just to so that everybody know it's a Bills related memorabilia.
All right, no wonder
so
I couldn't
cool.
find it. That is pretty cool.
I didn't know you were prepping these questions. I should have caught you with a few anyways, but go ahead.
No, the apprentice has become the master here, Mr. Brennan. Love it. So,
Joe, back on. Go ahead, Joe Squires. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I have a couple funny, a pseudo Joe quiz for Joe too. When you're done wrapping up there, Bob.
All right. Okay. All right. So I got one more point for Joe. Any suggestions for a beginning football card collector and football memorabilia collector?
Yeah, I tell everybody that's starting out or collecting, I tell them the same thing. I tell them buy what you like. Buy the best that you can afford. Don't try to compete with anyone, the registries. And most important, enjoy the hunt, because that's the most fun of it, is finding the cards to fill in your holes or add to your collection, because it's always the next card that is the best card. So just enjoy it. It's just a hobby. And go about it that way. Just enjoy the hobby of it.
Exactly.
That's the advice that I would give anybody that's in it for a long time or just starting off. Remember that it's just a hobby.
Very true. A lot of people forget that. They forget that. They think they're in battle again or whatever. It's just it's amazing to watch sometimes, to say the least. Joe, I'll hand off.
Great advice there, and I dig that. That always resonates with me. And I got that advice from a guy very early on. I'm not sure if you remember him from the boards, Mark Dubbins, but just gave me the same advice. Yeah, Mad. He went by Mad. He saw me buy a PSA 2 card. He's like, "What the hell are you doing, dude? You have a really nice set. Don't buy that crap." And he goes, "Just be patient." And it was just some of the best advice I got. So, all right, I have a couple little things as I was doing my homework. As I think of teams, I oftentimes compare them to my Seahawk greats. So, a couple questions here. Just a pseudo Joe quiz, nothing really official. So, just first thing that pops in your mind. Shout out the answer here, Mr. Brennan. O.J. Simpson, Hall of Fame running back, or amazing actor?
2,003 yards in 12 games. Hall of Fame running back.
Hall of Fame running back.
True.
So, all right. Option 2, Hall of Fame running back, mediocre murderer.
Alleged.
Don't answer.
He didn't do it.
Alleged for both.
He didn't do it.
Don't answer that. Don't answer. Alleged, yeah. No, we always joke around. It's I'm an Oregon Duck fan, and the Huskies play the Ducks every year. And whenever the Huskies come to town, we always wear the shirt. Ted Bundy was a Husky. So it's kind of funny.
I didn't know the West Coast guys were so morbid at times.
We go for the jugular.
We're more sophisticated.
We go for the jugular,
East
Joe.
Coast. Just East Coast guys just throw snowballs at Santa Claus. That's all.
Outstanding. We go for the jugular here, Joe. Yeah. All right. Better receiver, Andre Reed or Steve Largent?
I do wish to remain friends with you, so I'll have to say Steve Largent.
That is the correct answer.
Wow.
Well done, Joe. Nice job. 2. I mean, Steve Largent, had to deal with, a lot of those Raiders, guys, who would just, punch you, there's no video of Andre Reed, getting teeth knocked out across the middle.
Taking your head off was a whole different era for receivers back. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, Andre Reed's pretty good too, but and it's kind of funny. I jotted down here kind of, OJ getting traded to the 49ers at some point, which has got to be tough. Because I remember in 2005 when Sean Alexander, was the reigning, MVP, of the NFL. One of the few times a running back has been an MVP. It's I have a cousin who's a huge football fan, and he's like, Seattle's got to trade that guy. I'm like, you don't trade the reigning MVP. What are you talking about? He goes, no. Running backs typically hit about, this many yards, this many years, and then they start to go downhill. He's like, Alexander has 1, maybe 2 years left in him now. If they trade him right now, they could probably get 1 or 2 first-round draft choices and maybe some other stuff. You got to lose that guy. Everyone's like, no way. And the next year, Alexander comes out and hurts himself, misses half the year, and the year after that, he's really hurt, and he gets traded to the Redskins for like a 7th-round draft choice. And I just remember shaking my head going, wow, running backs do take a pounding. And
I remember
I
remember when OJ was with the Bills and his career was winding down, and I remember saying to myself, how will the Bills ever survive? Will they ever go on without OJ Simpson?
Yep.
I mean, that's what you think that time is. This is the end of the Bills. I mean, it's over. The team's going to fold up when OJ goes. Well, I guess they kept on playing after that.
Yep, it happens. But yeah, it was just it had to be tough to see him traded out. To see him traded to the to the 49ers, even though he'd been 7, 8, 9 years with the Bills. I mean, got your use out of him.
Yeah, well, I mean, even the thing about OJ and the Bills at that time, even if they were behind, they were still giving the ball to OJ. I mean, they weren't even trying to win the game anymore with Ferguson at quarterback. They just kept handing off. They'd be down 14-17 in the fourth quarter, and they just kept giving the ball to OJ. So, at that point, you really wanted something more than just OJ left, OJ right, OJ middle punt. So it wasn't that hard to see him go and move in another direction.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. What did he only played a couple of years in San Francisco before he retired. So.
Right. Yeah. It was unforgettable.
Well, Joe, we're almost out of time. I want to thank you for being on tonight and sharing some great stories about the Bills, especially Jack Kemp. And I'm sure we'll be talking down the road. And thanks for being on today.
Absolutely. And thank you guys for having me. It's been a blast.
Wow.
Had a lot of fun.
It's been great. Thank you.
Buffalo Bills super collector fan, Joe Brennan, our guest tonight. Joe, I'm going to hand off to you. We're going to go into our 2-minute warning and wrap up. What'd you pick up on tonight's show?
Classy. Classy. I have very fond memories. I can think back to where I was sitting when Joe Brennan called me to ask me about the Mastro shilling. And at the time, the WeWag scandal was going on. The When It Was a Game, where people were grabbing cards and resealing them. Because he brought that up to me too. And then had the class to email me the Joe Orlando depositions, so I could read them over. It's where I learned a lot about, the grading process. But,
I think it's just so important. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
It's so important to have a mentor in the hobby. I've always said that, and there's just not enough of them. Not enough of them.
Yeah, but just cool for him to take the time to call me and to ask me about shilling and tell me about WeWag. It's reaching out to somebody, and I'd been collecting for about 5 years there, but really seriously for maybe 3 or 4. So it was it was an eye opener. I've always appreciated Mr. Brennan taking the time to give me a call and educate me. So
great.
Classy.
Great story. And again, like I said, mentoring is very important in any hobby, and I see it sometimes, and I'm happy to see it, but a lot of times I don't see it, and I wish it could be. So that's why I like our group VFC, because you see a lot of mentoring going on. You see a lot of helping younger
Yep.
guys in the hobby getting in and so on and so forth. So it's important, very important. All right, we're down to almost a minute and a half. Check out our website if you haven't, gridirongreatsmagazine.com. And if you're not a subscriber to Gridiron Greats Magazine, Joe,
What are you waiting
for?
Seriously.
Exactly.
If you're listening to this podcast and you're not a subscriber, what are you waiting for?
I was telling Brenda the other night, I'm just so saddened by the amount of subscribers who've passed away over the past couple of years. It's kind of shocking to me. It's just really, boy, life is quick. That's all I can say. So again, I really felt bad, and seeing Dave pass is wow. I talked to him probably
Original
2 years
subscriber.
ago.
Yeah. And is that an original subscriber from when you took it over, or original subscriber from, going all the way back to Frank?
Say that last part again. You cut out.
Is that an original subscriber from you when you took over? An original subscriber?
No.
Frank?
From issue 1. So he was one of the originals. Wow. Yeah. So tough to hear. All right, 30 seconds. We're almost out of time. GridironGreatsMagazine.com. We got a real special show coming up next week, and we'll be posting that over the next week or so. And it's going to be a great show with some very strong hobby specialists who we all know and have talked to in the past. So, Joe, we'll wrap it up tonight. Thanks for listening. GridironGreatsMagazine.com. We'll see you next week.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I wanted to thank you for stopping by to listen to another episode here on the Sports History Network. Our podcasters are passionate about uncovering and sharing sports stories from yesteryear. And if you didn't know it already, we have over 30 shows across the network covering all sorts of sports history topics. In fact, here's a glimpse into one of our awesome podcasts here on the network.
Each week, the official Football Learning Academy podcast will take you deep into the history of pro football through interviews with players, coaches, or administrators in the NFL, as well as interviews with Pro Football Hall of Fame selectors, authors, and historians. You'll learn how the game evolved and important moments that shaped the sport into what it is today. And don't miss the Pro Football History Nugget of the Week. Listen to the official Football Learning Academy podcast on the Sports History Network.
How about that? I bet you're super hyped to go listen to that new podcast, right? Well, to learn about this show and all the other podcasts on the network, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Again, that's sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Head over there today to find your next favorite sports history podcast.